Would you mind if I asked you a question? Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, well, Garv, that was a question. And I will take that as a yes. My question is, what do you think of when you hear the word club? I feel like for a lot of adults, right, they think of a place with a bar and music, right? They let the libations and the music stations flow. But I don't think that's what a bar or a club is to everyone, right? A club, it can mean many different things, right? There's a club sandwich. What does that mean? I have no idea. I don't actually know what a club sandwich is. Is it a sandwich you get at a club? It is a sandwich that you have to club an animal to death to make? I don't know. I don't know the process in which a club sandwich gets distinguished, right? How does that happen? When does a sandwich turn into a club sandwich? Is it like a monthly payment? Because that's another type of club, right? Like a club you have to pay to be a part of, and then you're a member, a club member. And then there's something called a country club, right? What is that? Is that just a club inside of a country? Well, isn't that in every club? I don't get the rules behind clubs. Who wrote these things? They were probably part of a club too, except they didn't call them a club. They called it a committee I would bet money on. So then what is a club, right? There's club soda. Again, I don't know what that is. Do you drink a club soda with a club sandwich? If you have a sandwich with a club soda, does that turn it into a club sandwich? I don't know. There's a lot of rules and a lot of things I need to learn, right? I said I'm an adult, so I know what a club is with bars and music. Yet I'm a type of adult that doesn't know what a club sandwich is. So already you can see I'm a perfect use case of someone that knows one type of club, but not the other. I know of its existence, I don't know what makes it such. The reason I bring this up is because people can be a part of a club, right? That's one type of club. What are other types of clubs? Well, I just went over a bunch of them, right? The only one I left out, I think, was the weapon, right? A club, a big mace. Shout out Windu. But then there are clubs, in the most common form, I think, are ones that people are a part of. I think you have clubs in many different formats, but I think it remains true that a lot of clubs consist of people, and that is what I'm talking about. And I was part of clubs in school, right? I think I've talked about it on here. I was a part of those few clubs that you go to in high school, so you can put them on your college resume, as you can be part of that club. Also, a college, that's basically a club, right? Because you have to apply to it, and then they have to admit you, and then you got to accept it. It's a whole thing. And then inside of college, there are clubs of their own. And in schools, that's, I feel like, where they have a lot of clubs. That's a thing. You can go to any school, and every school will have classes and clubs. And you feel like you're part of a special group, right? When you become part of the club, because that's what makes it so special. Now, you don't let everyone in, right? That's why, you watch some of those old movies, and then there's the bully where they're like, hey, you're not part of our club. And it's like, okay, who said I want to be part of it? It doesn't even seem that fun. What do you do? You hang around gas stations, like convenience stores, and then you beat up nerds after school? That doesn't seem like a club I want to be at. If you guys were doing ultimate frisbee, that would be another story, but what you got going right now, I don't like it. The only way I could join your club is if you could secure me a spot on your committee, the committee of the club, right? A leadership position so that I could instate some changes, right? Because right now, in its current capacity, it's a no-go for me. But if you can promise me change, you'll see me there. First thing Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. That's another thing. A lot of these clubs, they're always super early in the morning. They weren't really, but because school used to start so early, these clubs naturally would have to start even earlier. Now I've heard that apparently some kids in high school start school as late as 8:30. That doesn't seem that crazy, right? Some days at work, you start a little later than that. So adults can't even be bothered to do it. But kids are starting at 8:30, and that seems like a stretch to me because I used to start at 7:45. Back in my day. That's right. I'm enough of an adult to reminisce on the past and say that kids today don't have it hard enough, yet I'm not enough of an adult to know what the fuck a club sandwich is. Isn't that wild? But when you're in these clubs in school, you feel special. And sometimes these clubs, they put on events, right? Sometimes they'll do a fundraiser. One club I was part of, right? They would always do a movie night at the beginning of the school year and at the end of the school year to raise funds. And when you go to this movie night, right, it doesn't start very immediately after the school day has ended, right? It always took place on a Friday, but it wasn't right after school. It wasn't at 2:35. It was usually at like a 6 p.m., a 7 p.m., right? Because it needed to be dark. You can't watch a movie with a bunch of glare, right? You set up the projector outside and then you're just looking at basically a white sheet. The movie's being projected, but you can't see it. It's almost as bad as watching a movie in a car. Have you guys ever been in a car with one of those little flip down screens and then you try to watch a movie on it? If you've done that, you know the distinct problem with trying to watch that on a sunny day because you would catch it 90% of the time, this disgusting glare that makes it to where you can't even see the sucker. So then you do these like uncomfortable positions in your chair. You're like watching Madagascar like this. And your parents are like, hey, do you need something? I'm like, yeah, to watch this movie. Can we rewind? I missed like half of it. But during these movie nights, sometimes, right, you would show up a little early before all the patrons show up, right? Because you need people to come to these things to raise the funds. But with me, I was raising the fun. Stop it. It's fun without the D, which makes it more fun. Do you? Nope. That's a bad joke. I'm not going to say it. But before everyone shows up, right, to consume this movie, some people have to show up to set up. And so usually I would do that, right? The last year I was part of the leadership, so I had to do it. But before that, I would show up because I wanted to, not because I didn't have a life. I see you typing. Watch it. All right? You better watch how you behave. I'm going to kick you out of this club. I'm just kidding. I need as many people in this club as possible, right? Because we are low on attendance, so I need to what do you call it? I need to compromise my morals so that more people will surround themselves with me. That I can surround myself with more people. So I'm gonna compromise my morals. You can behave however you want, as long as you like me. You don't even have to like me actually. Just be here, and that's all I ask, right? But if you show up early to these things, you help set up and you get to talk to the other people that showed up early and helped set up. And then you feel like, oh, I kind of put this thing on, and you feel this level of importance. And then you get to see how things were done. Like, ooh, the popcorn machine, right? It's set up in a certain way. Maybe you know how to pour extra butter. So then when you show up later, right, maybe you'll get your own bag of popcorn, pour a little more butter, right? You feel like you're part of this exclusive group. And that even extends to if you stay longer, right? If you help tear down, because then you get to digest the event with other people. And then you get the inside gossip, right? It's all about the gossip. But you feel exclusive. You feel like, oh, I'm getting access to stuff that other people don't. And this can be seen in other ways too, right? It doesn't have to be at a club event. It can be at get-togethers. Like in my adult life, I have a very distinct example of this. One time I went to a friend's place. I don't know if it was someone's birthday or what, but we were doing a wine tasting. And I remember the thing started at 2 o'clock, but I decided I'm going to show up at 1. Now that may seem egregious, right? Coming off a little strong. Like, what the fuck, Garv? That sounds like someone you would make fun of, and I know that. But I did this because I knew that this would be acceptable behavior. I would say most times it's not. Because then you would go to someone's place and then you knock on the door and they're like, yeah, what do you need? Because it's so far away from the event that they're like, yeah, do you need something? Because there's no way you're here for the event. Fuck no, you're here to be at the thing that starts in an hour that everyone's going to show up 30 minutes late to. No shot, right? They're about to get in the shower. They're like, no, I'm just here for the thing. They're like, oh. Is there trouble at home? Like, what are you running away from? Why are you here? But this wine tasting, I knew it was a good idea because this friend of mine, we were close and we hadn't seen each other for maybe 4 or 5 months. So I was like, oh, this is the perfect chance to show up, catch up, help them with whatever they need to set up. And then everyone will come over and then we already did our catch up, right? Because that's the problem with a lot of these events, these club events. When there's everyone there, right? There's 100+ people. That's not what this wine tasting had. Maybe this wine tasting had 10+ people. But even if there's wine tasting, it's hard to get to talk to someone and catch up in a real way unless you do it one-on-one. So when there's a group of people, it's like, yeah, we're all just saying bullshit, right? I don't like a group. Now I've gotten into a lot of trouble for saying this. And by a lot of trouble, I mean that friends of mine have scolded me. They're like, oh, you don't like that? You're the weirdo. But let me try to defend my case here. I don't like groups because I feel like there's nothing like interesting happening. Now, I'm not making my case very well, but I think a lot of personality gets lost in a group because usually in a group there's like one or two personalities that dominate, and you lose any kind of substance you could have. Now I know that this is an argument that some people have made where they're like, oh, groups, you just don't connect with people very well. I'm not going to be pretentious, raise my nose, and say that to you. I'm just going to say that it's not what I prefer, right? And I know that there is a place for that. I know that there is a place for mindless get-togethers. A lot of sporting events, that happens a lot, right? The great thing about sporting events is everything is loud, so it discourages any real talk. So it's a way to spend time together without, poking and prying into other people's lives. That's also why maybe a movie is great to see with a group of friends. It's not great for a first date. And what's the difference? With a group of friends, right? You don't need to catch up on each other's lives. You'll do that. You'll do that later. But with a date, you need to get to know them. So that's why a movie doesn't work, but also does work for a big group of friends. Because you shouldn't be talking. What are you going to go over to some friend's house? You guys are going to throw up a movie? And then 10 people are going to make small comments the whole time? Absolutely not. That's why if you're going to see a movie with a group of friends, you see it in public because it discourages that. You got to do things where the social stigma will shut down people's personalities, make them close up. You never want to you never want to encourage people to express themselves fully. Enough of that. But no, if we're being real, I don't like a group because it's usually dominated by like one or two people, and just the way it happens, you usually don't want to hear from those one or two people because you already hear about their life. They're telling the same 6 stories they've told for fucking 15 years. You don't need to hear that again. I remember I had this friend. He's told this specific, I'm not going to say what the specific story is. He's told this specific story 6 times with me in attendance. Now, I don't think he knows that, right? Like, if you were to ask him, hey, did you tell Gauruv this story? He'd probably be like, oh, no, does he want to hear it? Because he fucking... he always tells this story as if it's like this brand new... And it's not a good story. It's not. I hate to say it. You could be a wonderful storyteller, right? Embellish all the right points, and it still wouldn't hit. It's inherently a bad story. He sets himself up for failure, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to tell him. It's like telling a kid they can't grow up to be an astronaut, right? Why am I going to shut down his dreams? Okay? Let him figure it out on his own. Okay? Let someone else tell him. Let him go through life and then see, oh, shoot, I can't do this. Don't let me be the footnote in a story where he's like, yeah, I was going to do this, but then Gauruv said this. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the antagonist. It's not even like an antagonist, right? An antagonist, that's like a presence in the story that lives throughout. Someone shutting down someone's dreams, that's just a little, like I said, footnote. It's just a little blip and then it's over. Why am I going to do that? There's no point. So I just let him be delusional. And I'm a good listener. I can sit there and take it. But I swear to God, if they try to do it a 7th time, but it's a great thing to show up early because you get to connect with the person you want to connect with. Chances are, right, you get invited to something like a dinner, like a wine tasting. You're only really there for a select amount of people. You're not there to connect with all 10 of those people. I'm an adult. I don't have 10 close friends. That's crazy. I have 10 friends for sure. I would say I have 20 friends. Hell, I would say I have 50 friends. But when I say a friend, I mean like, oh yeah, I see one life update from them a year and I'm happy about it. That is a friend when you're an adult. You see something they post, a couple times a year and you're like, oh, that's nice. I'm glad that they're doing well. Yeah. And then if their birthday comes around and you remember, you say, oh, hey, happy birthday, by the way. So that's awesome. That's a friend when you're an adult. I feel like there's a lot of things I've said this episode that I just don't agree with, but I'm just saying shit to say shit, right? But I've built all this up and I'm just trying to get to this point, which is that when you wake up early in a day, it feels like you're part of an exclusive club. Like I've been talking about, once a week I go to this cafe, right? And I get a donut and a coffee. And last week I woke up at 6 a.m. and I drove over to the place and there was no one on the streets. And I realized, oh, this is such a cool feeling. Like no one's here. Usually these streets are packed. So I was like, oh, this is just like when you show up early to a friend's place for an event, because you get to see, like, everything before the storm happens, and you feel like you have exclusive access to stuff, right? When I go to this place, I see all the donuts. I'm like, wow, I didn't even know they had those, because I'm usually not there at the time to see those in stock. I'm like, wow, those must be popular. Interesting. And I think the same exact thing applies to the after party, right? You ever go to a get together, right? You show up fashionably late, you do the classic 15, 30-minute late thing. And so you don't get the preface to the party, right? The catch up in the beginning, but you do the post catch up. Post catch up. Nope. See, there's no good joke there. I was going to say, what's a post catch up? Because I know a pre catch up is just a tomato. That's not funny. That's not. Also, it doesn't answer the question of what's a post catch up. I don't know. Mustard? Or maybe a wiener, right? Because after you bite down in a hot dog, after ketchup, you get wiener. What? Hey, you clicked on this, okay? Don't look at me like that. You chose to be part of this exclusive club, and this is what I'm giving you, okay? But I think when you even stay around after a party, that's also very nice, because you get to digest the night with this person. It's like, oh, did you see this person did that? I'm like, oh my God, I know, right? That's crazy. How have you been, by the way? How's that rash? And they're like, oh, I told you about that? I'm like, no, but we can see it. And to me, that is the equivalent of staying up late at night. Because I've been trying to rack my brain for like the past 5 to 6 to 7 years. Why does it feel so good to wake up so early and stay up so late? And I figured it out. It's because you feel like you're part of an exclusive club. Because you're awake, you're active, you're enjoying this thing at a time when everyone's not. It's kind of like getting a backstage pass, right? It's like the after party, staying up late at night, because everyone's gone to sleep, right? Like right now I'm recording this at 1:35 a.m. And I feel like shit because I know I have to record this and it takes 3 hours to do that, but I also feel a slight amount of coolness because I'm like, oh yeah, probably everyone around me, every neighbor, right? They're probably asleep. But I'm fucking in this room talking to myself, and that makes me cool. No, but there is something that feels kind of nice, right? There's something weird about like the middle of the day because you know, oh shit, there's like so much happening around me. It feels like you're getting FOMO anytime you're inside. For some reason, it feels like complete shit, like staying indoors when it's summer. Because you're like, oh, am I squandering like life? That's why gaming in the winter feels so nice. Because you're like, oh yeah, the day has given me an excuse to do this. I actually can't. A rainy winter day playing video games feels amazing. Because the world has given you an excuse. They're like, oh yeah, it's really bad out here. Just stay in. This is actually, you're in the right spot. That's where you should be. But when you game on a sunny day, oh my God. You feel like you're disgracing the dead because they're like, really? That's how you're going to spend your time alive? That's crazy. You can feel the sun on your skin and you're in there collecting a fucking DLC skin? Oh my God. Holy shit. But that's what's so cool. I think that's why I brought up clubs. Oh, really, Gauruv? Fucking like 20 minutes later, this is your point? Yes, this was my point. I figured out why early mornings feel so cool and like late nights feel so cool. It's because the party hasn't started or it's over, right? The party isn't happening, but you're still like participating. And if you do each of those with someone you love, it feels even better because you're like, oh my God, look at us. We got like a VIP pass and a +1, or maybe we like both have VIP passes to this day. Isn't that awesome? Like even when I come back from that cafe, right? The day has already started. The streets are already way more populated. And already I can feel, all right, guys, I've already been here for a while, right? That's what people love doing, right? You ever show up to a party, like a really cool party, and see, even as I'm saying this, I'm like, this isn't a thing. No one does this. I'm going to continue to say it, but just know that I don't even agree with this. You ever show up to a party, and then you see a friend there, and you're like, oh, hey. And they're like, hey, I've been here already 3 hours. And you're like, all right, we're at the same party now, so Calm down. See, that doesn't happen. That's not a thing. But it makes my argument stronger. So I'm going to push it as the truth. And that is my truth. So, but yeah, isn't that interesting? Maybe I'm slow. Maybe you're already there, but I think waking up early and staying up late is like it makes you feel like you're part of an exclusive club. Because it's like the party here is like real life, and you're getting to experience like the behind the scenes almost. But then what sucks is that if you do either of those, you gotta kind of like take from the other one, right? Like to wake up early, you can't stay up late, and to stay up late, you can't wake up early. So it's like you can only choose one a day, or one every 2 days, kinda, right? Because one influences the other, and that's makes sense, right? To be a VIP, you got to make a sacrifice. What is this guy on about? I realize you can tell when a kid has learned a new word. Now, I haven't talked to any kids recently, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but I had this idea where I was like, oh, with adults, right? They might use like an interesting word, and you're like, oh, huh, that was a choice, but you probably picked that up somewhere along the way, right? You're in your like 20s or 30s or 40s, like you've lived enough life to where, yeah, that word probably found its way into your vocabulary. Sure, sure. But when a kid uses a certain word, you can tell, hey, you didn't learn that at school, did you? You picked that up from somewhere. That's not something that just, yeah, you went out of your way. Where'd you get that? And it's usually a very obvious word because it makes sense, but they don't use it correctly. Like the best example I could think of is like, let's say you're playing video games with a kid, right? Let's say I have a son playing NBA 2K, and then he crosses me up, pulls up, hits a jumper, leaves me stumbling, right? Ankle breaker. And they would turn to me and be like, oh, Dad, you're so naive. What the fuck? Did a second grader just say the word naive? Also, that's not how you use it. I see how you could use it there. Like, probably he just got the denotation, the dictionary definition, so he thinks he used it correctly. But that's not how you use that. But he was trying to call me like a noob. But instead, he was like, I'm going to throw out a naive. And it feels so like, what is it? Like jammed, like wedged in there. I'm looking for a word here. I can't find it. It feels so like, like it's not supposed to be there. But he put it there because he just found it. And you can tell he just found it because he's not supposed to have that. Oh, you're so naive. No, go ahead. What does naive mean? It means what you are. Oh, yeah? And what am I? Let me guess. Naive? Yep, yeah. Nope, that's what I was going to say. I know. Because you don't know what naive means, right? Start bullying your son. Hey, I see you're trying to better yourself, right? Become a more rounded individual by increasing your vocab, but knock it off, all right? You're making your old man look bad. Your mom thinks she dated someone smart. Don't prove her wrong. She can't know the truth. I feel like things are getting worse. Do you feel this? Now, I don't want to be the doomsday guy and be like, yeah, things are getting worse. Things are getting worse. And maybe even me saying this, I'm contributing to that. I just feel like, and this isn't just about politics, I feel like it's everything in life. I feel like recently, every single day, you find out something about how the world is getting worse. It's like every day I wake up and my phone, for some reason, it's some app, right? It's some app I don't know I have notifications on for that's telling me that, hey, just popping in, letting you know exactly how the world has gotten worse. It's always something. Like the fucking weather app, right? You'll wake up, you'll turn on your weather app, or not your phone. For some reason, yeah, the Weather Channel app has found its way onto your home screen. And right there, prominently displayed, is a banner telling you that 34 people died in a hurricane in Florida. That's the first thing I read in a day. What the fuck? I shouldn't know that. But I feel like every day, right? There's something like that. There's something on your phone or the internet letting you know that, hey, the world is getting worse. It's like every day I'm getting patch notes about how they're making the game worse. And the game is just real life. And it's weird. Yeah, it's like big stuff, right? Like politics, death. But then it's like even little stuff. Like you'll go onto a food delivery app and you're like, oh, maybe I'm feeling some Jack in the Box, right? I should probably just go there myself, but I don't want to show my face. They might clock me. They might be like, oh, you. Yeah, you seem like the type to be here. Hey, Fries in the bag, bro. Okay, I don't need this commentary. I didn't order the kids' meal, okay? You don't need to give me a toy. What toy? What you're doing with my emotions. That's right. Because you're being very rude. But you go to the fucking food delivery app and you go to Jack in the Box and suddenly they don't have mini churros available just that day. It feels like every little thing you find out about the world is making it worse. And I think a big thing right now is like AI. Everyone's talking about fucking AI. And I know the phrasing of what I just said, and that's true too. People are talking about fucking AI too. AI and fucking AI. I feel like everything you learn about AI is just telling you how it's making the world a worse place. I know these are probably like very, um, what is it? Like when they try to elicit a response, but they're very like, when you incite someone, right? You like poke them. You're like, hey, I can't find the word. See, this is a problem when I record late. I usually have a headache and I can't think of words, but I always put these episodes off. So this usually happens. Inflammatory. Got it. But they're usually these inflammatory headlines that are supposed to make you like flare up because you're like, oh, fuck you. Fuck you. It's something like, oh, AI is on track to replace 80% of jobs by 2034. And you're like, what? Based on what? All right. What the fuck gives you the grounds to say that? But it's always some shit like that. You hear about it every day. You're always like, oh, how AI is going to kill you. That's the thing. There's always like something you learn every day where it's like, oh, either something's going to kill you or something has killed someone. And it's like, oh, okay. It feels like, yeah, I know death is part of life, but can we get more of the life part? I feel like we're getting, yeah, we're jumping to the end too much. And then you see people talk about AI that have like no credentials to talk about it, but they use like a chat bot and they're like, oh no, I got this. And it feels like watching someone like hard launch someone that you know is obviously not good for them. Like you ever see someone post a picture with someone and they're like, oh, dating, and you're like, uh-oh. That person you're with, that's not a good person for you. You need to get out of that relationship. But they're in the honeymoon phase, right? And so they think it can do no wrong. And so they keep propping it up, being like, this is awesome, this is awesome. And I'm like, hey, that's gonna be your undoing one day. You realize that, right? That's how it feels like when people post about AI. They're like, this is awesome. Look at what this made look at how this made my life better. And then in 3 months they're gonna be like, I lost my job, I'm broke, and I don't have a lust for life. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But you were trying to put us all on to how awesome that thing was that took, I know. Don't rub it in. Okay. It's always these people that are like talking about AI that I know would fall for like scam text. You ever get these texts that are like, oh no, your Netflix password's been compromised. And you don't have a Netflix account, but you're still like, oh no. Those are the people that are like, wow, I just learned a brand new skill because of AI. And it's like how to talk to someone. And I'm like, really? Really? You talk to a computer to learn how to talk to someone. Boom, there you go. You did it. Again, I don't want to be the person that's like everything's getting worse because things are getting better. All right, Garb, name one. Okay, don't put me on the spot like that. I don't like that. Look, that's another bad thing. You putting me on the spot. How dare you? In this changing world, you're contributing to it. Yeah, you're part of the problem. And oh no, I'm assigning blame. Now I'm part of the problem. I think everyone's the problem. And that's why AI is going to eliminate the problem, which is us. Anywho, this wasn't a good episode. And I know that. It's okay. You don't have to tell me. But last episode was apparently good because people watched it, they enjoyed it, and they left comments and likes. And I want to say I appreciate it so much. This is obviously, right, the yin and yang of it all. That was, I don't know which one's good or bad, but that was the good one. And this is the other one. My parents talking about me and my sister. Okay. But thank you so much for listening. I should really say thank you so much for enduring because what was this? But hopefully next week I will be a little more responsible and record an episode when I am actually fully awake and actually have a brain in my head. Again, you could be like, Garv, I don't think that could ever happen because of that second part, the part about the brain, but we made it through, right? The obligation is just to post a video a week. I never said it had to be good. In fact, in earlier episodes, if you can watch, like the first 30 episodes of this podcast, I'm actively like rooting against it. I'm like, don't watch this. But I think it's gotten better now. This is an exception, every rule, right? There is one, but next week will be better, right? Look at it this way, right? And this is how you should look at all the lows of the world. For every low, there's a high. For every ebb, there's a flow. So, this is just the spinach you have to eat to get the dessert. And next week, there'll be dessert. So, look at that. Something to look forward to. I'm actually, by making this episode so bad, I am doing a good thing because it's basically guaranteeing that next episode will be better. And in comparison to this episode, you'll really like it. Look at that. Life hack, right? AI couldn't tell you that shit. And that's why I'm here. And that's why you're here listening to this. Actually, I still don't know that reason, but you are here. And I thank you for that. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you leave a like and a comment on the episode, and I will talk to you next week. Okay? Bye.